New York City, 1994. A room filled with smoke, testosterone, and the deafening roar of young men screaming into telephones. To the outside observer, it looked like chaos. It looked like a madness. But it wasn't madness. It was a machine. A finely tuned industrial-grade vacuum cleaner designed for one specific purpose: to extract wealth from the American middle class and deposit it into the pockets of a few hundred brokers on Long Island. We have all seen the movie. We watched Leonardo DiCaprio play Jordan Belfort. We laughed at the drug-fueled parties. We marveled at the excess. Hollywood turned the crime of the century into a comedy. They made us root for the bad guy because he was charming, because he was rich, and because he was fighting the system. But in doing so, Hollywood committed a second crime. They hid the truth. They distracted you with the spectacle so you wouldn't look at the mathematics. They told you the story of a man who got caught, but they never told you the story of the blueprint he left behind. They made you believe that when the FBI raided Stratton Oakmont, the era of the wolf was over. They told you that regulations were tightened, that the loopholes were closed, and that your money was safe. That was a lie. The wolf didn't die in 1999. He didn't disappear. He simply waited. He waited for technology to catch up with his ambition. Today, the boiler rooms are gone. The rotary phones are gone. The paper trails are gone. But the psychology, the greed, the mechanics of the scam, they remain exactly the same. The only difference is that today, the scam isn't happening on a private telephone line. It is happening on your smartphone, in your Twitter feed, and in the digital wallet you check every morning. The scale is no longer in the millions, it is in the billions. And the victims are no longer just dentists in Ohio. The victims are you. In this documentary, we are going to do what the movie refused to do. We are going to ignore the parties. We are going to ignore the drugs. Instead, we are going to perform a forensic autopsy on the financial engine of Stratton Oakmont. We will dissect the 50% commission. We will decode the psychological scripts used to brainwash investors. And we will prove, with undeniable evidence, that the modern cryptocurrency market is nothing more than Stratton Oakmont 2, rebuilt with code instead of cocaine. Welcome to the blueprint. To understand how you are being robbed today, you must first understand the architecture of the robbery. The stock market is often presented as a single entity, a monolith of capitalism. But in the 1990s, there were effectively two different markets operating in parallel universes. On one side, you had the light world, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ. This was the home of legitimate commerce, companies like General Electric, IBM, and Ford. In this world, the market was efficient. There were millions of buyers and millions of sellers. Because of this liquidity, the price of a stock was generally fair. If you wanted to buy IBM, you paid the market price. The broker who facilitated the trade took a commission, usually around 1 or 2%. It was a service fee for a transaction. It was boring. It was safe. And it was impossible to get rich quick. Then, there was the dark world, the over-the-counter market, the pink sheets. This was the Wild West of finance. This was where companies that couldn't meet the strict requirements of the NYSE went to trade. These were penny stocks, shares trading for under $5, often under $1. These companies had no assets, no revenue, and sometimes no employees. They were shell companies, empty boxes wrapped in fancy names. In the light world, the price is set by supply and demand. In the dark world, the price was set by the market maker. And for the stocks they pushed, Stratton Oakmont was the market maker. Imagine you walk into a casino where the dealer doesn't just shuffle the cards, he also decided what value is printed on them after they are dealt. That was Stratton Oakmont. They would buy millions of shares of a worthless company at 10 cents a share. They would hoard the supply. Then, they would instruct their brokers to sell those shares to the public at 50 cents a share. This brings us to the first great mystery, the 50% commission. A viewer recently asked, why was the commission so high? The answer is simple. It wasn't a commission. A commission implies you are an agent acting on behalf of a client. This was a markup. It was a bribe. Jordan Belfort knew that no rational broker would spend 10 hours a day selling garbage to grandmothers for a 1% fee. He had to corrupt them. He had to make it worth their soul. So, he offered them 50% of the spread. If they sold a stock for $1 and the firm bought it for 50 cents, the 50-cent profit was split. The broker kept 25 cents. The firm kept 25 cents. The client? The client instantly lost 50% of their investment the moment the trade was executed. Before the stock even moved, the client was underwater. To break even, The stock would have to double in value. But the stock never doubled. It only crashed. Because it was never designed to go up. It was designed to be sold. But how do you sell a guaranteed loss? How do you convince a rational human being to buy a ticket on a sinking ship? You cannot use logic. Logic is the enemy of the scam. You must use emotion. You must bypass the neocortex, the thinking brain, and speak directly to the lizard brain, the part of the brain that fears starvation, the part of the brain that craves status. Jordan Belfort didn't just hire salesmen. He engineered them. He created a system called straight-line persuasion. At its core, it was a script. A literal screenplay typed out on paper that every broker had to memorize. They were forbidden from deviating. They drilled it for hours every morning until the words flowed like music. This script was weaponized linguistics. It was designed to anticipate every objection a client could possibly raise and crush it before it was fully formed. The process began with the opener. The broker never led with the penny stock. That would be too aggressive. It would trigger the client's defenses. Instead, he led with a Trojan horse. He pitched a blue-chip stock, Kodak, Disney, American Express. He would say, "Mr. Jones, I am not asking for a commitment today. I simply want to demonstrate the quality of my information. Pick up a small block of Kodak. It's a safe play." Why would a scammer sell a safe stock? Because he isn't selling the stock. He is buying trust. He is hacking the client's confirmation bias. When the Kodak stock inevitably ticked up a few points because the whole market was rising, the client looked at his account and thought, "This broker is real. He made me money. He is an expert." The client's guard came down. The relationship shifted from salesman-victim to advisor-friend. Then came the pivot. Weeks later, the phone rang again. The tone was different. It was urgent, breathless. "Mr. Jones, you remember that Kodak trade? I told you we would make money. Now, listen to me. I have something on my desk that I am strictly not allowed to discuss with anyone outside my inner circle. But I like you. You trust me. This is a company called Aerotine International." Now, the broker deployed the trinity of manipulation: scarcity, urgency, and authority. Scarcity. I only have 10,000 shares allocated to me. Once they are gone, they are gone. Urgency. The market closes in 10 minutes. The news is about to break. If we don't move now, we miss the boat. Authority. My research team has been investigating this patent for 6 months. This is a technical certainty. The victim's brain is flooded with cortisol and dopamine. The fear of missing out overrides the fear of losing money. The broker bombards him with questions that only have one answer. Do you like making money? Do you want to provide for your family? Do you want to be successful? The victim says yes, yes, yes. This is the consistency principle. Once the human brain starts saying yes, it finds it very difficult to start saying no. The trap snaps shut. The trade is executed. The money is gone. Selling penny stocks over the phone was profitable. It bought the Ferraris. But Jordan Belfort wanted more. He wanted the Gulfstream jets. He wanted the kind of money that buys politicians. To get that, he needed to control the entire supply chain. He needed the initial public offering. The IPO is the holy grail of finance. It is the moment a private company lists on the public exchange. In a legitimate IPO, the investment bank acts as a neutral party, distributing shares to the public to raise capital for the company. But at Stratton Oakmont, the IPO was a rigged casino game where the house knew every card in the deck. The most infamous case was Steve Madden shoes. Belfort wasn't just the broker for Steve Madden, he was the shadow owner. But it is illegal for an underwriter to own the stock they are selling. It is a massive conflict of interest. If the SEC found out Belfort owned the shares, they would shut him down instantly. So, he invented the Rathole. A Rathole is a human shield, a nominee. Belfort recruited dozens of people, his childhood friends from Queens, his lawyers, the security guards at his office door, even his drug dealers. He gave them cash in suitcases. They used that cash to buy the pre-IPO stock in their own names. But before they bought it, they signed a secret document. A document that said, "I am holding these shares, but Jordan Belfort controls them. Jordan Belfort tells me when to sell, and Jordan Belfort gets the profit." By using Ratholes, Belfort effectively cornered the market. He controlled 95% of the available supply of Steve Madden stock. Now, think about basic economics: supply and demand. When the IPO launched, Stratton Oakmont unleashed 1,000 brokers on the phones. They generated a tsunami of artificial demand. Everyone wanted Steve Madden. The price started to climb. $5, $8, $12. Normally, as the price rises, early investors would sell to take a profit. This selling pressure would cool the price down. But in this case, the early investors were the Ratholes. And Belfort told them, "Do not sell. Hold the line." With massive demand and zero supply, the stock price went vertical. It defied gravity. It reached $20 a share. The clients were euphoric. They were looking at their account statements and seeing a fortune. They screamed at their brokers, "Buy more, get me more." And then, the signal, the moment of maximum liquidity. Belfort gave the order to the Ratholes, "Dump it." In minutes, millions of shares flooded the market. The supply curve shifted instantly. The price collapsed. It was a massacre. The clients called the firm, desperate to sell, desperate to salvage something. But the brokers didn't answer. They unplugged the phones. They went to lunch. They left the clients to burn in the fire they had started. But stealing $200 million creates a logistical problem. You cannot simply deposit illegal cash into a bank account in New York. The IRS watches everything. You need to wash the money. You need to make it look legitimate. Stratton Oakmont built a laundering machine that rivaled the drug cartels. It started with smurfing. They would break the cash down into small amounts, just below the $10,000 reporting limit. They employed armies of Smurfs, runners who would go from bank to bank, buying cashier's checks. Then, the money had to leave the country. They taped stacks of $100 bills to the bodies of women, wives, girlfriends, mistresses, and flew them to Switzerland. Why women? Because in the 90s, customs agents were less likely to pat down a woman in an expensive dress. Once in Switzerland, the money was deposited into numbered bank accounts. Anonymous. Secret. But it couldn't stay there. To bring it back to the US to buy the mansions and the yachts, they used a fake loan scheme. The Swiss bank would lend money to a US corporation owned by Belfort. The money looked like a legitimate business loan. It was clean, it was usable, and it was all the client's retirement savings, scrubbed clean by Swiss neutrality. This complexity is why the FBI took years to catch him. It wasn't just a stock fraud. It was an international conspiracy involving securities fraud, money laundering, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. It was a masterpiece of criminal engineering. In 1999, the gavel fell. Jordan Belfort went to prison. The government declared victory. They told us the system worked. But while Belfort sat in a cell, a new technology was being born. A technology that promised freedom, decentralization, and a world without banks. It was called the blockchain. Fast forward to today. The wolf is out of prison, but the spirit of the wolf has migrated. It has found a new home. A home with no SEC, no FBI, no identity verification. A home where you can spin up a financial market in seconds. Welcome to crypto. If you look closely at the mechanics of a modern meme coin or a shitcoin, you will see that it is not a new invention. It is a digital clone of the Stratton Oakmont blueprint. It is the same scam, upgraded for the internet age. Let's compare the mechanics. In the 90s, Belfort used Ratholes to control the supply. In crypto, developers use sniper bots and pre-mined wallets. Before a coin is even announced to the public, the developer uses automated code to buy up 80% of the supply across hundreds of anonymous wallets. They control the float before the first legitimate investor even sees the chart. It is the Rathole. Automated. In the 90s, brokers used the Kodak Pitch to build trust. In crypto, scammers use influencers. They don't need to call you. They pay a YouTuber or a Twitter personality to shill the coin for them. The influencer builds trust by giving good advice on Bitcoin. Then they pivot. They say Bitcoin is boring. If you want 100x returns, buy this new coin. It is the exact same bait and switch. The influencer is the modern broker, and their followers are the modern client list. In the 90s, they unplugged the phone to stop you from selling. In crypto, they use the liquidity rug pull. To trade a coin on a decentralized exchange, there must be a liquidity pool, a pile of money that allows users to swap tokens. The developer usually holds the keys to this pool. When the price hits the peak, when the hype is at its highest, the developer doesn't sell his coins. He simply removes the liquidity. He withdraws the dollars from the pool. Instantly, the price goes to zero. You still have the tokens in your wallet, but they are worthless. You cannot sell them because there is no money on the other side of the trade. It is the digital equivalent of unplugging the phone, locking the doors, and burning the building down with everyone inside. But the modern wolf is even more dangerous than Belfort. Belfort had to rely on human beings. Humans are flawed. They get scared. They talk to the FBI. The modern wolf relies on code. And code does not flip. There is a mechanism in crypto called the honeypot. The developer writes a secret line of code into the smart contract of the token. This code states that only specific wallet addresses are allowed to sell. You buy the coin, you watch the chart go up. It is a beautiful wall of green candles. You feel like a genius. You try to sell. But the transaction fails. You try again. It fails. You are trapped. You can check in, but you can never leave. The chart only goes up because no one can sell except the developer. He waits until the pot is full, and then he drains it all. And even if the project is legitimate, there are predators in the water. High-frequency trading bots called MEV bots, maximal extractable value. These bots watch the blockchain for your buy order. When they see you trying to buy a coin, they bribe the miners to place their buy order exactly 1 millisecond before yours. They buy the coin cheap, drive the price up, and then sell it to you at the inflated price in the same second. It is called a sandwich attack. It is an automated, algorithmic tax on your existence. Jordan Belfort had to scream into a phone to rip you off. These bots rip you off while the developer is asleep. So, where does this leave us? The sad truth is that the regulators are fighting a war they cannot win. The SEC is trying to apply laws written in 1933 to a technology built in 2024. They are chasing Ferraris on bicycles. They will catch a few scammers, sure. But for every one they catch, 10 more are born. The barrier to entry to become a scammer has dropped to 0. You don't need a brokerage license. You don't need an office. You just need an internet connection and a lack of conscience. The 50% commission was not just a fee, it was a tax on ignorance. And that tax is still being collected every single day. The only difference is the currency. There's only one way to kill the wolf. You cannot kill him with laws. You cannot kill him with prison. You can only kill him by starving him. You starve him by becoming smart. You starve him by understanding the game. When you understand what a market cap is, you don't buy the lie. When you understand liquidity, you don't buy the rug. When you understand that community is often just a code word for cult, you don't drink the Kool-Aid. We founded Finance Prism for this exact reason. Not to tell you what to buy, but to show you how the machine works. To give you the X-ray vision to see the gears grinding beneath the surface. Financial freedom is possible, but it is not found in a lottery ticket sold to you by a stranger. It is found in patience. It is found in knowledge. And it is found in the courage to say no when everyone else is screaming yes. If this deep dive opened your eyes, if it showed you the matrix, then do your part. Share this knowledge. Wake someone up, because the wolf is still out there. He is watching. He is waiting. And he is hungry. The only question is, will you be his dinner, or will you be the one who sees him coming?